Isabel Vaughan-Spruce was acquitted last week after she was prosecuted for silently praying outside an abortion clinic. Vaughan-Spruce, director of anti-abortion group March for Life UK, was searched and arrested outside the BPAS Robert Clinic in Kings Norton, Birmingham, last December. Her arrest sparked protests, with her supporters saying she was being prosecuted for thought crime. Father Sean Goff was also arrested and criminally charged, and he was also cleared this week. Isabel joins me now, along with Jeremiah Igunnobole from her legal representatives, ADF UK. Isabel, can I come to you first? How do you feel now that you've been acquitted?
Delighted. I'm really pleased that I've been acquitted and completely vindicated of any wrongdoing. But it's just a shame that it had to come to this. And quite a few people have said the process ends up becoming the punishment that I had to go through. You know, quite a humiliating arrest on a public street, and to be locked in a police cell and interrogated, just to find out that yes, I am allowed to think in my own head what I want to think. So yeah, it is a shame that it took that long and had to have that process to get to this conclusion.
Did you have any sense that these kind of repercussions might ensue once you were standing in that area that they considered to be out of bounds?
I was surprised that the police and went to the length that they did. I mean, clearly we've got a very confusing PSPO in place. In fact, all of these PSPOs around abortion centres, the public space protection orders, have very confusing language and are incredibly far-reaching, saying that not just protesting that's banned, but counselling and prayer is banned in certain forms. So yes, that is very confusing for people. But I did not think that my private thoughts were going to be censored.
Jeremiah, can I bring you in now? This is an interesting one, isn't it? Because had protesters been standing outside harassing people who were going to the clinic, causing criminal damage, there would be laws in place to prevent that, and rightly so, presumably. But that's not that wasn't the case here, was it?
No, it wasn't. This is the first content-based crime that we have seen in the United Kingdom. It's the first time that laws have been created to criminalise the content, the subject matter, as opposed to the manner or the behaviour that's been prosecuted. And so what we're in right now is the first time that fundamental rights are being targeted based solely on the issue at hand, the topic. So what we have is the A word, the abortion subject, being criminalised purely because it relates to abortion. The public space protection order refers to any approval or disapproval related to abortion, including prayer and counselling. So theoretically speaking, if Isabel, somebody else was stood next to Isabel, just standing in one place protesting about climate change, then that person wouldn't have been arrested as well. So this is a subject-based criminalisation based on ideas, and of course that's very dangerous.
Now, I've had people on this show who come from either sides of this argument, the sort of pro-life and pro-choice. But actually, it's not really about that debate, is it? This is much more about a freedom of speech issue, and in fact, a freedom of thought issue. I mean, Isabel, do you feel very much that they were effectively trying to control what goes on inside your head, and that's what they were trying to enforce here? Yeah,
it seems very strange. I've really no idea why they were going to the lengths that they were. So I didn't catch the beginning of your question. I think there was a little bit of a blip.
But do you think, though, that this action was taken really to try to stymie the debate in some way, to sort of put people off from protesting in any way?
Yeah, I did find it interesting that I was charged with engaging in an act which was intimidating of service users. Now, bearing in mind, I was there when the abortion centre was closed. I was only there when it was closed. It does beg the question, who's intimidating who? And I have thought that all along, that I seem to be put under intimidation with the work that I'm doing. I certainly felt it was quite intimidating, the police and the whole process I had to go through. And yet I'm the one being accused of intimidating. And yet, the work that I've done has helped hundreds of women. I clearly have no intention, and never have, intimidated women. That's the last thing that I would be doing.
But perhaps,
so I do find it quite offensive.
Could you explain where exactly you were in relation to the clinic and what exactly you were doing? And that might help people to understand.
Yeah, so I was quite near the abortion centre, probably a few metres from the abortion centre. As I say, it was closed. There was nobody using the abortion centre at that time. And I was silently praying in my head, just standing with my back to the hedge, not blocking the street, not talking to anyone at all in any way, not engaging in any conversations, not holding any posters, not offering any leaflets, just standing there silently praying in my head, not even manifesting that prayer in any way.
Jeremiah, this does beg the question, doesn't it? What on earth were they thinking pursuing this prosecution? If what Isabel says is true, and I've no reason to believe that it isn't, she's standing there just praying silently. How could they possibly think to justify these actions?
Well, you're quite right to ask what were they thinking. It's the first thought prosecution that I'm certainly aware of in Western Europe, if not the world, because this, like I said earlier, if somebody was next to Isabel and she didn't admit that she was praying in relation to the subject of abortion, then she simply wouldn't have been prosecuted. And the reason why this is a crucial issue is because the right to freedom of thought is protected in both domestic and international law as an absolute right. It's not like freedom of speech or the right to privacy, which has to be balanced against other rights. Freedom of thought is an absolute right that must be protected and cannot be penalized by any means. So what we have is police officers acting on the basis of complaints rather than considering whether or not the individual who's being complained about has any individual liberty that is rightfully being exercised. And so, of course, when acting on the complaint, even if the issue relates to the absolute right to freedom of thought, they go ahead to penalise the thoughts in question rather than considering whether or not the thought was lawful.
Well, thank you both for your time. I really appreciate it. Isabel Vaughan-Spruce and Jeremiah Igunnobole, thank you very much.